As a doctor, I can confidently state that regular people with knowledge of system vector psychology can essentially get rid of many diseases. It is clear that we cannot protect them from injuries or some infectious diseases, but this is a very small percentage, and everything else is psychosomatic, meaning that at the root, at the very beginning of the disease, there was some psychological conflict in the person. I had a tubootitis. For those who don't know, it's when the eardrum is pulled inward, causing a difference in pressure inside and outside, and the ear hurts a lot. From adolescence, I had problems with my facial skin. In other words, I never had a moment when my skin was completely fine. I constantly suffered from skin breakouts of various types, constant skin oiliness that couldn't be treated with anything. No way. You go to the doctor, they prescribe you one medication, one analysis. You go to another doctor, they prescribe you something else, but it doesn't help. My vision was poor throughout my conscious life until training. A few months before I met my future husband and learned about system vector psychology, I went to a very famous doctor who performs laser operations for vision correction. The doctor told me that if I don't have the surgery within a year, my vision will drop to -9. He couldn't prescribe glasses for me because the level of vision was different in each eye. One eye is nearsighted, the other is farsighted, and I could never stand wearing glasses for more than 20 minutes. At first, it was such a light feeling that I began to see more clearly. Just recently, I went to the doctor, and my vision not only didn't drop to -9, it actually improved by, I think, 0.7 points. When a person with a psychosomatic disorder undergoes training in system vector psychology, their internal conflict disappears, as they say in medicine. He himself understands the reasons that led him to this illness. There is an awareness of these reasons, which essentially gives him the opportunity to get rid of their impact on him, of the impact of these psychological reasons. I couldn't breathe through my nose properly. I had choking attacks when a seizure started, and that's it. I couldn't even breathe in. I lived constantly using special drops. They were vasoconstrictor drops. I know the entire range in pharmacies. I had a small bottle in all my bags, because if I found myself without this bottle somewhere, when the attack started, I would panic because I knew that I would start suffocating and couldn't breathe through my mouth. Such a state is absolutely terrible. I used to have periods when the migraine would start at a certain time, and it was every day. Especially often it was in the summer. In other words, the migraine would start around 12 p.m. and end probably by the evening. Sometimes these conditions were tolerable, and sometimes they were such that I simply could not get up. In other words, it was nausea and all the unpleasant moments accompanying the migraine. After training, these problems practically disappeared. Since I have known system vector psychology, which has been for quite a long time, I have only had a migraine 4 times. This is nothing compared to what it used to be every day. And it wasn't as strong of a migraine as before. It was a mild pain. I am good at distinguishing it. I know what a strong migraine feels like and what it's like when your head just hurts a little. This is a very big difference. It so happened that I was planning to go on vacation this summer, and I was packing a first aid kit for the trip. I think, I need to take a nasal drop. And I realized that I don't remember at all where they are located. Am I, it turns out, not using them for a long time? I just didn't even notice it. And here it dawned on me that this is the result after training. I wasn't waiting for it and didn't expect it because I didn't think at all that the reason for this was psychosomatic, because the doctors were talking about a deviated septum, something else, and naming some reasons. Although in reality, perhaps the reason was completely different. And another moment when it seems like suddenly I am wrong. Maybe it's temporary, or maybe it's not because of system vector psychology at all. But I can say one thing, that I have lived with this for 30 years. It tortured me for 30 years, and now it's not there at all. There can be no other reason. You are undergoing training in system vector psychology, and suddenly unexpected results appear for you. Yes, of course, when a person experiences such a bright, unexpected rapid effect. For someone with psychosomatics, it certainly causes surprise, and for them it is unexpected. Because most often a person with psychosomatics expects that they have some serious illness that requires long-term treatment. And considering that we as doctors also conduct many examinations to exclude or confirm psychosomatics, when such a quick recovery occurs, it is always surprising. But medicine definitely recognizes that there is a connection between psyche and illness. People with psychosomatic disorders, during training, essentially fully understand all cause and effect connections in the development of their condition. And at the moment of realizing these cause and effect connections, there is a relief from psychosomatic disorder due to the influence of these unconscious processes disappearing from the person as soon as they are realized. Since I was 3 to 4 years old, my ear has been constantly hurting as a background. It hurts so easily, meaning I had already gotten used to it. I went to doctors. They told me that everything was fine with my ear, but the cause of this background pain is unclear. I thought that maybe it was something else. Maybe it was related to my eyes. I stopped paying attention to it because it's impossible to deal with it all my life. During one of the system vector psychology training sessions, it disappeared. After the training, at first I didn't even notice that my ear doesn't hurt. Completely forgot about it. Although before I often had this pain, I couldn't sleep sometimes because of this pain. But I understood why my ear was hurting specifically, why in this particular form, that there's pressure inside and outside, and it causes pain. In addition, a person fully realizes their mental properties, psychological properties, and they know how to implement these properties in order to avoid any future problems with the psyche. And essentially, a person not only receives relief from psychosomatic disorders, but also prevention in the future of any psychosomatic diseases. I read in reviews from other people that their facial skin improves after training. And for the sake of the experiment's purity, I did not take any medication. I did not go to the doctor or cosmetologist. I did not change my diet in any way. I did not use any specific cosmetics. I didn't do anything. And incredibly, but fact, my skin became noticeably cleaner and smoother. I stopped using any aggressive cosmetic products for skincare. I just don't need it anymore. And it changed gradually, not immediately. It's not like the next day I woke up and had skin on my face like after processing in Photoshop. No, it happened gradually. I was worried that there might be a relapse. The training would pass and everything would start over. And here are my face masks ready, but they were never needed. A person gains a complete understanding of how their psyche is structured, the psyche of others, how to avoid stressful situations, and what specifically will cause stress for them. Because stress is very individual, the reaction to stress is also very individual. In other words, it is complete control over one's life. And I will give an example from personal experience, because personal experience is always very close, vivid, and indicative. My son had a problem with stool retention, psychosomatic, so to speak. And I couldn't manage to deal with this problem, even though I am a neurologist. Let's say my medical knowledge could not help solve the problem. And I was just going through the training of system vector psychology, and it became absolutely clear to me why my son developed constipation and why it had such severe consequences, because we would reach hysterics to the point of crying. And during the training, I understood my mistakes in upbringing. By that time, the child's problem was already quite advanced. When I went to the training, the child was already in a quite difficult psychological state. But after the training, firstly, his condition started to improve. In other words, all of this became smoother, and these tantrums were not as intense anymore. We as parents were able to correct our behavior and properly guide our child, explaining to him what was happening, because it also scared him. The most interesting thing was that understanding his mental properties and the knowledge I gained from the system vector psychology training allowed me to solve this problem and do it in one moment. I used his own mental properties, knowing what properties he has, in order for him to independently overcome this problem. And it's amazing that literally the next day, this problem disappeared, as if it had never existed. The problem with stool delay completely disappeared. The next day, the child became normal, without tantrums, calm, like regular children, going to the toilet, yes, without any difficulties or problems, and it was like a miracle. For me, it was like a miracle. For the doctor, it was like a miracle, because this knowledge works so accurately, that it is so individual, precise, and effective. All my baggage of medical knowledge did not allow me to help the child, but the knowledge of system vector psychology allowed me to solve this problem in one evening without medication, without any other interventions. I had a brief conversation with my son, taking into account the peculiarities of his psyche. Knowledge of system vector psychology allows for very precise, personalized work with a person with great effectiveness. Of course, ideally, understanding that a person has psychosomatic problems, they need to undergo training in system vector psychology. Of course, only in this way he will be able to completely get rid of this disease, to come out of it. But even for me, as a doctor, these knowledge allow me to work 100 times more effectively. This infamous individual approach can only be achieved with knowledge of system vector psychology. Otherwise, it's just a theory detached from practice. Because without knowledge of system vector psychology, it is practically impossible to provide a personalized, individual approach to the patient. Yuri Burlan and his training, this is the breakthrough that medicine desperately needs. It is what it lacks. And I really hope that soon we will definitely see this knowledge in official medicine.